Our guy, Bob Harig, Sports Illustrated. What's going on, buddy? How are you?
Hi, Jay. How's it going?
I'm good, man. Thank you so much. I know you're busy today. Thank you for taking some time. We had Joe Madden. Now we have you. We have Ed Encina. We got some big guests on the program today, my friend.
Joe Madden.
Big?
Yeah. That's kind of a big come down from there, man. Okay.
No way, buddy. No way. You're the one and only. How's the vibes over there right now at Quail Hollow? What's the buzz like?
Yeah, it's been kind of weird. It's hard. It's hard getting into the feel of it being a major because, well, one is they play a tournament here every year. So even though the build out looks different and it's much bigger and grander, it's a course that everybody knows,
Right.
Or at least most of them know. And then we've just had a lot of bad weather. It's not so bad today, but like yesterday and Monday, there was huge downpours. They had to come off the golf course. So it's been a little bit of slow getting into it. Now, obviously, they start tomorrow, and it's going to be warm. So maybe this is a blessing. They haven't overextended themselves too much going into the first round.
What is the buzz like when it comes to Rory? I mean, obviously, such a big story over the last couple of months, and now it's just like, is there a kind of a drop off? Is there a little bit because it was just all eyes were on him, and then obviously the story afterwards, and now it's just are people still all abuzz because of what Rory did at the Masters?
Yeah, I think there's still a pretty big glow from that. It's been a month, and he's played in a couple tournaments since. Hasn't played poorly at all. He just finished 7th last week in Philadelphia at the Truist, which is suggests that he hasn't fallen off any. And I think there's a lot of sort of anticipation in a different way. Like, how does he play now? Like,
right.
Is sort of the hangover last and he doesn't get back to where he was, or is he unencumbered now without that burden? He'd gone 11 years without winning a major. Now he's won his 5th, and it sets up beautifully for him the rest of the year. He's won here 4 times, so this is a golf course he likes, obviously. A wet, soft golf course suits him. I don't think a firm golf course hurts him, right, but certainly a soft golf course helps him. At least it has it throughout his career. And, the British Open is at Royal Portrush, which is like near where he grew up in Northern Ireland. He has a course record there that he set at age 16. And then Oakmont next month, which is one of the hardest courses in the world. If you're one of the best in the world and playing great, why wouldn't you have a chance there? So, like, there's sort of, after not winning one for all these years, now there's like, okay, now there's relief. I got the career Grand Slam. I finally got a major, any major, and, it's the Masters.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's like there's no pressure almost.
Right.
If Rory doesn't win this week, nobody's going to criticize him. So that's kind of a nice way to get to play.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a great point because now you look at it as, do you still have that fire? Do you still have that drive because you haven't won for over a decade? Or on the other side of, like, now you're playing with house money, kind of like you're playing loose and free. Like, go rip it down the fairway and see what happens. Somebody brought something up to me yesterday, and they said, well, Jordan Spieth, if he wins the PGA, he joins the group too. And I go, my gosh, you don't even realize that because the Rory conversation, and Jordan just, he came out of the gate so strong, and it hasn't been the same for Jordan. But I mean, Bob, we're one PGA championship away from Jordan joining that esteemed group too. I mean, I hate to ask, like, what are his chances, but it's a unique situation because I feel like Rory was knocking at the door for many years. Am I wrong to say that the narrative would be different with Jordan if he was able to kind of be in the conversation this weekend?
Yeah, I mean, I think in his case, it's more of, all right, prove it. Let's see you get there. He admitted this. He said it. Look, I've come into this tournament many times with my game not really informed. This is actually his 9th PGA with a chance to complete the career Grand Slam, because he did it in 2017. The PGA followed the British Open, which he had just won, 2017, so 8 years ago. And then the PGA actually that year was here at Quail Hollow, and he finished like 28th. That was the one Justin Thomas won.
Mm-hmm.
And he's really not contended at the PGA. He was third in 2019, but he was 6 shots back of Brooks Koepka. So like it's kind of hard to say he had a chance on the back nine. And you know, to be honest, Jordan has not been a prolific winner lately. He's only won since that British Open win 8 years ago. He's only won twice. You know, Rory has been a consistent winner. Rory had won twice this year before the Masters, which is why you get hyped up about, well, God, his game's pretty good. And then Rory also, you know, he probably could have, should have won the U.S. Open each of the last 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
In 2022, he was in the last group at St. Andrews and hit every green in regulation and still didn't win the Open. So, like, you know, he's had chances, whereas Jordan really hasn't. And so that's where the difference is now. Could Jordan win? Absolutely. You know, he's still a very, you know, elite player. But, you know, he had an injury last year. He had wrist surgery. He was out for a while. He's been working his way back. I mean, I think deep down, Jordan is more looking at the big picture. Like, you know, he's thinking about his career long term, not like worrying about this week so much. Because I don't think he's still 100%. You know, a guy who hits golf balls for a living, having wrist surgery is not, you know, it's not a great thing. And it's like you can't avoid the contact with the ground. And so he's sort of has suggested he's not 100%.
And we'll see. I mean, I'm very interested to see where, not even just this weekend, but just kind of how the next couple of years of his career plays out. I mean, all eyes, not all eyes, but, you know, a lot of eyes are going to be on Scottie Scheffler, of course. I mean, you know, some people are talking like Scottie Scheffler versus the field. I'm like, I don't know if we're at that level right now, but he's got to be that one guy, Bob, where like he's going to be the popular pick. Is there any other people that you would put outside of Rory in that conversation with Scottie where it's like, I wouldn't be surprised if that guy won this weekend?
Yeah, probably Bryson.
Yeah, you're right.
You know?
You're right. Bryson
DeChambeau. I mean, he just won a live event in Korea. He obviously was in the last group with Rory at the Masters. He's contended in 4 of the last 5 majors, won the U.S. Open. Again, a soft golf course that plays long. It plays into his hands. Mm-hmm. He's a long hitter who, you know, when it's softer, it'll be easier to keep the ball in the fairway. And, well, he's going to be beyond everybody else, so he has a shorter iron in. You know, it's pretty basic. So, like, if and his irons were his downfall at Augusta. He lamented them during the week. He wasn't happy with the way he was hitting his irons, and he kind of patched it together with an unreal short game that finally caught up to him on Sunday. That's why he shot 75. He just wasn't hitting his irons strong enough. I mean, look, you just won a tournament in Korea. You know, like Keegan Bradley said it pretty well yesterday. I don't care what tour it is. It's hard to win. You know, Bryson hadn't won all year. He didn't win on Live last year. So, like, it's not like he was, like, cleaning up out there. So he went out and won a Live event. And the week before in Mexico City, he had contended. So he's been playing at a pretty high level. And he's played here before. Like, when he was on the PGA Tour, he played at Quail Hollow. So, you know, I think he's another guy you have to kind of look at. But, look, this field, the PGA is the deepest of all the majors. Mm-hmm. It's the most like the PGA Tour event. Like, it doesn't have qualifiers except for 20 club pros. It basically takes the world ranking, the top 100 off the world ranking, and a lot of invites. You know, guys who've won on the PGA Tour. There's not too many players in the world who are really, really good who are missing.
Right.
You know, whereas at the U.S. Open, the British Open, and the Masters, there are some really good players that don't get in. So that tends to mean that you could have a winner that isn't more of an outlier here. So, you know, we talk about all these big names. There could be several people that people, you know, like the casual fan might not. Well, who's that guy? Yeah. Well, you know, he's probably like, you know, on top 1% of all golfers ever, but he's 60th in the world. And you've not heard of him.
Yeah, no doubt. Bryson is he mad about the whole Rory ignoring him thing? I looked at it and I was just like, this dude is locked in. I don't know if Bryson could be mad, but of course they're going to bring it up, and Bryson's not going to shy away. So he wasn't really upset about Rory ignoring him,
I
was
don't
he?
know. It's hard to tell if he was upset by that. I mean, I think it would be remarkable if he really was.
Right.
I mean, I've made the comment. I stood there right there Sunday next to Bryson at the podium when he got asked that question, and twice it came up where he said, "Yeah, he didn't talk. No, he wasn't going to say anything to me," and he seemed kind of annoyed about it. And I just sitting there thinking to myself, "Okay, look, he just shot 75. He's pissed off.
Right.
It's literally, it's like you going into the locker room right after a game. That's how it is with these guys too.
Mm-hmm.
They're emotional, and so I just remember saying to a colleague, Rory wasn't going to talk to his mom in that room that day. He just was not going to converse with anybody but his caddy or a rules official if he had to, or if there was some procedural thing where he had to bring it up with Bryson. They were not going to chit chat. I mean, there was a great story from a few years ago. Tony Finau told us, he played in the last group with Tiger the year Tiger won at Augusta in 2019. And Tiger and Tony Finau were friendly. And he said, Finau, jokingly told the story. He said, there was a point early in the round where it just happened to be next to each other walking down the fairway. And I said, so how's your family doing? And he said, Tiger said, good. And he just kept going. Like Tiger wasn't gonna, they weren't gonna be chit-chatting. It's just the nature of it, especially on Sunday. There might be some banter in the first round or two.
Right.
There might be a little more banter during a PGA Tour event. But like Shane Lowry's Rory's good buddy. They just, his first guy greeted him after he won the Masters. They were teammates a couple weeks ago in New Orleans at that team event. I mean, if he'd have played with Shane Lowry, they wouldn't have been talking.
Right. Yeah, that's a great point. And it's kind of funny, Bryson getting upset about other people's actions. It's almost like turn back the clock with Koepka and Shambo. It's like, that's really ironic that we're having this conversation now. Bob, before I let you go, watching that happen with Rory at the Masters, where does that rank as far as, and I remember when Phil won the first time and I was at home with my family, and even like my grandma was getting emotional because, there's certain things about journeys in golf, right? When the guys, we mentioned 11 years that he had to wait to win another major. Where does that rank as far as like the biggest exhale that you've seen from a golfer finally kind of getting to the mountaintop?
Yeah, I mean, that's right there. I mean, certainly, recency bias being what it is, It might be hard to top. I mean, to me, Tiger in 2019 was very, very similar. It had been 11 years for him without winning a major, and he was a lot older. 43. Rory just turned 36. The journey that Tiger had been on with injury, back, surgery, all. Certainly the Phil 2004, pretty big.
Yeah.
People forget that, or maybe aren't aware, as great as Phil is, 45 tour wins, 6 majors. He still has one more major than Rory. Tiger had won 8 majors before Phil won 1. And Tiger was 4 years to the tour after Phil.
Yeah.
And Phil came out with a ton of fanfare. Phil won as an amateur. He won a tournament when he was at Arizona State on the PGA Tour. Like, he was going to be a big deal. Phil won 9 or 10 times before Tiger even turned pro. And then Tiger wins 8 majors. You can imagine the relief when he finally got one. And then he rattled off a bunch. He won the PGA the next year, and the year after that, after Tiger won the Masters in 05, Phil won in 06. So, that sort of opened the door. Like, I sort of feel like this could open the door for Rory again.
Right. I like that. Who's the guy you're keeping an eye on this weekend before I let you go?
I mean, several of them. I mean, these guys that we've talked about, I think, are interesting.
Yeah.
A guy who's I'm just curious about. Max Homa has been a really, really good player for a long time. He's won at Quail Hollow twice. Last year, he finished 3rd at the Masters, and he was 9th in the world, and he's fallen off a cliff since. He's really struggled. He had a stretch this year where he missed 5 cuts, and he's fallen outside of the top 70 in the world. But he finished 12th at the Masters, a little bit of a resurgence. He keeps saying, I'm hitting it great at home. I've been working on my game. I feel like I'm hitting it better than I ever have, but he can't bring it out here. Right. So I'm wondering if a place with some familiarity where he's won gives him some good vibes and he puts it all together, because nobody's talking about Max Homa. Anybody who's a betting person, I'm guessing the odds are pretty high. Like, in other words, that'd be a guy to take a flyer on maybe. And, that don't come to me when he shoots 80, 79. I'm just saying that it's possible. I'm with you. Like, I'm just sort of wondering about a guy like him.
Yeah, definitely, man. You always want to see guys to be able to kind of find their groove again. Drive: The Lasting Legacy of Tiger Woods. Tiger and Phil. We were just talking about Tiger and Phil. Go get those books now. I have them both. Bob does a great job, and of course, he is he's the opinion, man. Nobody else I want to talk golf with than our guy, Bob Harig from Sports Illustrated. Bob, thank you so much. I know you're busy as hell, man. Talk to you again soon. Enjoy the weekend of golf, my friend.
Thanks a lot, Jay. Appreciate you having me.
You got it.